when it comes to trusting God with your marriage, you got to understand that because marriage is God's idea, when you don't trust Him to give you direction on how to navigate the rocky waters of marriage, you end up creating situations that now you got to call on Him to throw you a lifeline in order to rescue you. Like, marriage is complicated. Marriage is difficult. The divorce rate is not what it is by fluke, right? Marriage is not easy. And when you try to do it in a way that you've made up or in a way that makes sense to you, and that way is contrary to how God has said do it, you're going to suffer. And so what I want to strongly encourage you to do is to trust God's word more than you trust your logic. Now, the reason that's on the list is because I'm one of those smart people that knows too much, right? So like when I came to marriage, I know how to communicate. I know how to resolve conflict. I know how to do all of these quote unquote relational things. But what I did not know is how to love the way God says love, right? I was still loving the way that I learned it in childhood, and I didn't even know that. And the thing that I want to encourage you to do, don't trust your own wisdom, because there's a whole realm of knowledge where you don't know what you don't know. Think about it. Like, you didn't know me back in 1990. But the reason you didn't know me in 1990 is because you didn't know of me. So you didn't even know that you didn't know me. That's an example of not knowing what you don't know. And there's billions of bits of information about life and love that you just don't know. But God's word can direct you onto, like, it talks about how to have conflict. It talks about how to repair. It talks about how to love. It talks about how to forgive. It talks about how to have partnership, right? It talks about how to create connection. Marriage is so complicated. I would not want to trust my own wisdom on trying to figure it out, right? Even if you grew up with parents who had a long marriage and you feel like it was a great marriage, the problem is you were not in it. So you have no idea how they created what they created. No one taught you how to do marriage. And if you're going to be successful at it, you're going to need to learn what God says about marriage and then do it that way. So that's my encouragement for you today. It's real short. Trust God's word more than you trust your own wisdom. It'll save you a lot of headache. I've been through more situations than I'd like to count on my own wisdom, and all I did was tear up the marriage more. But when I started trusting God for my marriage, for my sanity, for my peace, for the love in our marriage, man, things changed. When I stopped trying to control my wife, but took my issues to God like his word says, my marriage began to change. And all I'm saying to you, I'm just giving to you things that I've done, right? This is not things that are in a textbook. I didn't learn this in school, right? When I got out of school and I started doing marriage here, it's where I learned how to do marriage God's way. And so that's all I'm trying to encourage you to do. If you're going to be successful. Now, if you just want to have a marriage and be married, and if you just kind of like, marriage ain't that important to you, then just do it how you want to do it. Don't. But even to that, I say this. What's the point of doing marriage if you're going to suck at it? Like, why do marriage if you're just going to be casual with it? Like, choose something else to do. Marriage is not the thing you do casually. It costs too much time, energy, and effort. Right? You could put that time, energy, and effort somewhere else where your real heart is. But most people who get married is because they want to be married, but they don't know how. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to affect the divorce rate. And when you do marriage, watch this. When you do marriage God's way, there is a 100% success rate. 100%. There is no failure when you do it God's way. But in order for you to do it God's way, you got to know what God's way is. Marriage is God's idea, and his way is in his word. I'm encouraging you, if you want to have a successful marriage, trust God's word more than you trust your wisdom.